I see the comments and requests and I will act on them. Please remember to follow Geography World channel on Instagram and Facebook using the link shown on the screen. Please remember to like, share with your friends, and subscribe. For persons wishing to contact me privately, you may email me at geographyworld100@gmail.com. The link will be posted below. Welcome to Geography World channel. For this video, I'll be looking at the May-June 2019 CAPE Unit 1 Geography Paper 2. For this video, I will be going through question number 2, and question number 2 looks at Module 1. Now, the first question, Part A, asks us to state 4 characteristics of a population in Stage 3 of the demographic transition model. Now, the characteristics of a population in Stage 3 is that the birth rate has gradually decreased. The population growth, it continues but at a lower rate. Death remains low and steady. Economic conditions in the countries has improved. The status of women has also increased or improved, and the population now have access to contraceptives. Now remember that in Stage 3 of the demographic transition model, the birth rate has gradually decreased. So the birth rate is going down, and this is usually due to an improvement in the economic condition of the country. And the birth rate again has also started to decrease because of women's status. The women now, their status is now being recognized. Hence, you have more women going out to work instead of having children. And because there's also access to now contraceptives, the birth rate is gradually decreasing. So what is happening is that yes, we still have a relatively high birth rate, but the population is growing at a very lower rate as opposed to that in Stage 2. So a lot of the developing countries, they are a part of Stage 3. So let me go over the characteristics. The birth rate gradually decreases. Population growth continues but at a lower rate. Death remains low and steady. Economic condition in the country has improved. The status of women have also improved or increased, and population now have access to contraceptives. Let us look at Part B. Part B basically said that we're to outline 3 consequences of migration to a named source country that you have studied. So another name for the source country is the sending country, the country that you're leaving to. Now, what are some of the consequences of migration to a source country? Now, the consequences are practically similar for most of the source countries. So depending on where you're located, you can look at it from that end. I'm not sure which country your teacher went through with you, but I'm going to look at it from Jamaica's point of view. Now, when persons migrate from Jamaica, these are some of the consequences that are left. So we have remittances. We get remittances from the persons who have migrated overseas. So in 2008, 17% of the GDP was basically made up of remittances, right? Now, something that most of the Caribbean basically suffers from is brain drain, and this is basically just the loss of skilled and professional workers. A lot of our skilled and professional workers, they constantly migrate, especially to the United States and the United Kingdom, to take up jobs, right? So this is basically affecting all Caribbean countries. We have what are known as barrel children, and these are like family livelihoods. These are like children who depend on receipt of goods shipped from overseas. So they wait. So they have relatives overseas that left. They constantly wait on them to send barrels and goodies from overseas for them. So we call those barrel children. We also have criminal hardening in life. So persons who migrate overseas and they have lived there for a particular period of time, what will happen is that they will basically reintroduce their criminal life to society. So, for example, persons who usually leave from the Caribbean, if they were a known bad man, when they migrate overseas, they take that reputation with them, and within no time, they follow in the same footstep, right? So we call that criminal hardening. And a very good thing about it is that the retired returning nationals, they add skills and finances to our country. So persons, once they migrate and they have worked all their life and they return home and they retire, they bring their skills and finances back to the country, which aids in the development. So once you're able to list just any 3 consequences, then you should be able to get your marks. Let's look at part C. Part C asks us to explain 2 differences between the expected population structure in a less developed country and that of a more developed country. Now, when we talk about the population structure, it looks at the age and sex balance in the given population, and it is usually displayed in a population or age-sex pyramid. Now we're going to look at the population structure for a less developed country. Now, LDCs, they're basically marked by a higher proportion of young persons, right, with a sharp decline in the number at increasing age. So these pyramids, they have a very wide base because of the high birth rate and a very narrow shape at the top because of the very high death rate. So in LDCs, the birth rate and the death rate are significantly high, where the base of the pyramid, the bottom part of the pyramid, is very wide, which indicates that we have a very high birth rate, and the top part of the pyramid is very narrow, which indicates that we have a very high death rate. Now, the life expectancy in LDCs can be as low as 50 years. Now, what this is saying is that majority of the persons in the population is expected to live up to 50 years or less, right? So if the life expectancy is this low, it means that something needs to be done to basically assist. So life expectancy in LDCs, they are usually low, and there can be some sex inequality due to migration and war. So for example, in the Caribbean, where we suffer from brain drain, we can have what we call missing males and females. So because a lot of our males and females, they migrate overseas, this can basically cause a sex inequality. So you may have more males and females residing in a particular country, or vice versa, right? Now in the LDCs, the fertility rate is very high. Thus the reason we have such a high birth rate. Now let's look at the most developed countries. Now their population pyramid, it shows a very narrow base, which reflects a very low birth rate, and it shows a relatively small proportion of its population under age 15. So in MDC, the birth rate is very small, so the birth rate is very low, and the population between 0 and 15 is very, very small, which means that they don't have a lot of children within their population. Now, the apex of the pyramid, or the top part of the pyramid, it tends to be a bit broad, and this is because the LDCs, they have a very high life expectancy and a very low death rate. So most of their population, they live to see at least 60. So most of their population is within the retired age group, right? So they have a very low death rate but a very high life expectancy. So in the MDCs, they have a very high dependent population, especially for the aging population, which could basically increase their crew death rate. So if you have a lot of persons between, for example, 50 to 80, it means that at some point the MDC might experience a very high crew death rate, because a lot of the old persons might pass away within a given year or a given time frame. So this could basically account for a high death rate within the country. However, MDCs, they usually have a very low birth rate, low death rate, a high life expectancy, and a medium to low fertility rate. All right, so once you're able to explain any two of these differences, then you should be able to get your marks. Let's look at part D. So we are to write an essay discussing three differences in outlook between Boserup and Malthus in their explanation of population growth in relation to the use of resources. Now, Malthus suggests that the geometric increase in population could outstrip the arithmetic growth of food supply, and without the checks and balances of famine and war, a population would outrun the limit of the environment to support it. Now, the long and short of his theory is that Malthus is saying is that with the increase in population, without checks and balances, without something happening, what will happen is that we'll have more persons than food to feed them, right? So he's saying that we'll have more food, more persons, and less resources to take care of them. So he said that the checks could be positive, which refers to circumstances that leads to a reduction in the population size. So he's saying that if we don't have a famine, a war, or a breakout of the disease, it means that the population will be greater than the resources or the food that we have. So those are the positive checks, while the negative or preventative checks are those that limit growth, such as late marriages and abstinence. So he's saying in order for us to maintain an optimum population, why not implement late marriages and basically ask persons to abstain from sex, so as to basically keep the population under control. Now, if you're going to look at the checks and balances that he implemented, you can look at famine in Africa, you can look at war in Iran, Iraq, or the Palestine, and you can look at the coronavirus outbreak, and you can look at it worldwide. So Malthus' theory is basically just saying that with the increase in the population, it could basically outstrip the growth of the food supply. So the more persons we have, the sure it will be that they will basically outrun the amount of food that we have. Now, Esther Boserup, she basically asserts that an increase in the population would lead to an increased innovation and invention. Her thing is that necessity is the mother of invention, she suggested. She believed that the higher population would be an incentive to technological development, and technological development is a determinant of the demographic change. She states that population change stimulates changes in agricultural system, for example, agricultural intensification. So in other words, it is the increased demand that is responsible for the pressure to change agricultural production. So to summarize, Esther Boserup is saying that once the population increases, it will basically force or demand technology to basically develop as well. So once we have an increase in population, persons will have an increase in innovative ideas and invention. So first time we usually have like this mango season, right? When it's mango season, after the season you can't find any mango anywhere. Now, due to the increase in population and the demand, persons have now basically found important ways and creative ways of actually creating the mango product in a way so that it is available all year round. So with the increase in population, we have an increase in innovation and invention to ensure that the food supply does not run out, right? We have a constant supply going, right? So with the preservatives and everything, so you can look at GMOs in crops, right? Remember back in the day when you plant one corn, you get one corn and you can use the seed to plant again. Now when you plant one corn, because of the GMOs in them, you can get even a higher yield, even 4 corn from it, the one tree of corn. So invention will increase once the population increases.
We are at the end of this video. Thank you for watching, and please remember to like, share, subscribe, and turn on your post notification bell in order to receive more videos like these. Leave comments below suggesting topics that you would want me to present on. In the comment section below, comment the name of your school and the territory for a shout out in my next video. Until then, bye.